Hi everyone, it's Emma from Lovecrafts. I'm going to show you how to sew a single hem today. So what we're going to do first is we're going to use our zigzag stitch to just sew along the raw edge to gather all those threads in. And then we're going to sew a straight line just as our single hem. And that's it. So let's get started. We're going to just pop the material in and we're going to put the foot down. You need to make sure you've switched to your zigzag stitch, and all I'm going to do is just run a line of zigzag stitch down here. You'll see that even though this isn't a straight line, I'm still following it, because when we fold and press it in a minute, that's when we'll get that nice straight line. So don't worry if this isn't immaculately straight, we can just work with what we've got. Back stitch just to fasten it off. There we go. So what we've done now is essentially bound the edge. It isn't at the edge at the moment, that's fine, we're going to trim that excess off in a minute, but this zigzag line here is essentially the edge of your hem. So all we need to do now is fold that over like we would with any other hem, hold it in place. You can check your pattern for the seam allowance. I'm going to give myself about a fingertips width because it's easy for me to make sure that's nice and straight all the way along. And I'm just going to press that into place, just like that. And so now what we've got is a really nice, neat hem edge, and in a moment we're going to go over, I'm just going to trim this bit off and we'll pin it in place before we sew it. So the first thing I'm going to do is open that out, and I just want to trim along where we've done that little zigzag stitch, because it's just going to get rid of that excess bit of material. We just want to be really careful as we're doing it that we're not going to cut any of the zigzags themselves. And the whole point of that zigzag is to catch all those loose threads. So the reason we get rid of all this excess is if we don't, it hasn't caught any of the loose threads. So now what I'm going to do is just pin this in place. So I'm going to get my pins and I'm going to pop them so that the point's coming toward me, and this way I can just run that sewing machine straight over the top of them and I don't need to take them out. So I'm just going to pop another couple in to make sure it's nice and secure. Usually you'd be using the zigzag stitch on something like a jersey material, so pinning is really important because it just stops that stretch and ease the material as you sew. Right, that's pinned and trimmed, and now we just need to get the sewing machine. Okay, so what we need to do first is just make sure we've switched from zigzag back to straight stitch, because we're going to run a straight stitch down here. And I'm just going to pop that under the foot, and I'm going to use the pressed edge of my hem as my guideline. Because that zigzag we did may not have necessarily been on a straight cut, we don't want to follow that, just in case it is wiggly. I've lined the pressed edge up with my foot, and I'm just going to sew a straight line all the way down there. I'm going to take my first pin out, just because it's a bit neater, but I can leave the others in. Now I've done a few stitches, I'm just going to do a little bit of a back stitch to secure that so it's nice and safe, and now I'm going to just sew a straight line. Okay, and now we're just going to do a little back stitch just to fasten it. Then I can take my pins out, and what you'll see when we turn it over is just a lovely straight line running parallel to that pressed hem edge. And that is how you do a single hem. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.